For This Week in Washington, I'm Brian Darling. Military voting rights, secretive Senate procedures, and energy policy are the three big issues this week in Washington. Senators Wayne Allard of Colorado and John Cornyn of Texas, along with House Republican Whip Roy Blunt of Missouri and Congressman Kevin McCarthy of California, are engaging in legislative combat for the rights of our military to vote in the 2008 election. Only 48% of the overseas members of the military who requested absentee ballots for the 2006 election had their ballots counted. These members of Congress have introduced legislation to restore the rights of our military to vote this fall. Conservatives believe that members of Congress should fight as hard for the right of our military to vote as our military has fought to allow Iraq to have a constitutional democracy. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has run the Senate in a manner that secretly passes on billions in costs to the taxpayer and stifles debate. Senators Jim DeMint of South Carolina and Tom Coburn of Oklahoma released a report last week which shows that 94% of the bills in the Senate have passed in the past 2 years without a vote, debate, or a single amendment. These bills passed in secret have cost you, the taxpayer, $9 billion. Conservatives want the Congress to go on record when it shakes down the taxpayers. Please read Legislative Lowdown and Human Events this week for conservative issues coming up in Washington. David Kreutzer of the Heritage Foundation argues that the recent attacks on oil speculators is evidence of a gross misunderstanding of how futures markets work and what they can do. Current proposals to hobble futures markets with additional regulation will harm both the consumers and the producers of petroleum and petroleum products. A better solution is to increase access to new energy sources. If new sources of oil are allowed to be used, futures markets and speculators will lower the future cost of oil, which will translate into lower fuel prices at the pump. That's This Week in Washington. I'll see you next week. For more information, log on to heritage.org and stay tuned next week for more news and information.